to the cloud. It's telling you that I'm going to record. Okay. So welcome everybody. For some of you, you don't know who I am, and some of you know me really well. So I'll just start with a little intro. My name is Cindy Mattingly. I am the owner of Healing Way Center, and I do these Magic Mondays because I love to share and I love to help people. And with the situation of the world, a lot of people just need a little kind of community thing. So that's what started my thoughts around this. And I'm having fun. I hope everybody else is having fun. And yeah, that's really the bottom line, community and sharing and things of that sort. So the way I do it is I have a handout. I'll do a screen share. I invite you to take notes. And then as soon as the talk is done, I send the handout, and then the actual recording will be on the Healing Way Center YouTube. So you can go and look at it there. And so let's see what we got here. It was right here. And there we are. So last week we did animal energy scanning. And this week we're talking about animal energy clearing. So that first paragraph is straight from my website, and it says everything that happens in the physical starts in the energy field, because we're talking about animals, but this is pertinent to humans and even to your environment. So we're going to look at some anatomy of the energy field itself, and then I'm going to share what I do, a 1, 2, 3 clearing technique, so that you, as the energetic leader of your pack or your household or you can also use it on yourself, because your animals really appreciate a clean and clear home environment, and you're part of that. So your ability to perceive, that your animal needs a clearing or your environment needs a clearing will be amplified the clearer your field is. So as most of you may have been gathering who's been coming to the Magic Mondays, my mind thinks very systematically. I think in folders, I think in steps. And so my approach to any type of energy work is very systematic, because what I want to do is cultivate an energy pattern, not only for myself, but for the animal, person, environment that I'm working with. I want it so that I not only make myself clear about my relationship with the energy, but the energy knows that I'm doing it. So energy follows thought. So that's why I do all these steps, and these handouts are pretty simplistic, but hopefully clear. So the first thing you want to think about when you get ready to do any type of clearing is looking at the energy field. What energy field are we talking about? There are many models about fields, but the two that I'm just going to reference here, one is bodies. So they're called energy bodies. And then the second one is the energy layers. Energy bodies is the field that is created by the vibration that's held in these different bodies. So the physical body has the physical body, and we all know that everything is energy. This is just more densely packed. And then when you go to the emotional body, it has a certain vibration, and that's why it's got this collective experience called a body. and then you move to mental and spiritual. And this is pertinent for the animals, but the bodies will have different texture, different feelings, different experiences for you as a human than if you're doing another human. So you don't want to go into the clearing expecting it to feel or experience the animal's energy to be exactly like yours. So it's just, again, paying attention to what you're picking up when you scan, which is what we talked about last time. Scanning, and you're just collecting data. So this being aware of which field, so what I do is I dowse. So I would dowse, is it for this animal's highest good for me to work in their energy bodies, or is it better for me to work higher good for them in their layers? And so as you can see, the next one, the layers are connected to the chakras. Chakras are part of the energy anatomy. They're, if you look at them, are the way I look at them, I should say, is that it starts with the physical body and it's connected to your endocrine system. And then the energy produced from that gives you a chakra. And then the chakras reflex to these layers outside of your body. I'm going to let Rita in. And so these layers are a reflex of the chakras. Now I tell you that only just because, so that you can get an idea that you have choices, but there are many other models. And these are just two for us to start with tonight. And so what I would do, that would be my first step, is I would say, okay, I get my dowsing pendulum or my dowsing rod, or I would do muscle testing and say to myself, which is for the animal's highest good. Then you want to remind yourself that you are working off the body. Even though we're doing the physical, it is also energy. But what happens when we start touching the physical body is that our awareness loses the awareness in the field. So we want to stay off body when we're doing animal energy clearing. And then the next point to remember is they are extremely sensitive to the energies. This is how animals survive in the wild specifically, but even our own animals, they know you're, coming home moments before anybody else in the house knows, because they're aware of the energy. So you just want to keep that in your awareness. So the places that you start with any kind of clearing, last time we talked about scanning. And scanning, of course, was about permission and thinking about which hand you're going to use and really paying attention to the distance from the body, but you collected information. There might be heat, there might be pulsations, and all you're doing is noticing what you notice. It's just information. We're not labeling it good or bad. That's really important. What we're looking for when we scan, remember, is we're looking for discrepancies. Where is it not smooth? Where is it, I can feel it in my hands? Where is it pulsing? Where is it hot? Where is it prickly? Whatever the word might be of your experience. It'll depend, of course, on your intuition. Now, the next step, so that's step one, scanning. Step two is the actual clearing. So anytime you do any clearing on a human, on an animal, or an environment, smoke, scent, and sound are the places that like I immediately start thinking of. So smoke, for instance, right? Many people, I shouldn't say everyone, many people have saged their houses. Animals are pretty sensitive to smoke. So you might not use sage, or you might find that they really like, um, what's it called? I think Palo Santo. I think that's the name of that. It smells really sweet. Sweetgrass is another one. And sometimes, if it's not too strong, animals appreciate that. But if you're going to use it maybe on yourself and your environment, sometimes for some of the animals, it's the smoke triggers more of a warning to them than not. So that would be, again, a place for me to douse. Is that for their highest good? Maybe they have compromised lungs. Maybe so that one's one that I would think about before I do it. And then I know a bunch of my animal clients where the owner, sages the house once a month and their animal loves it. So, but you want to be mindful in that one. Scent, one of the ones that I use is rose water. Hopefully you can see that. If you can't, make sure you tell me. And I just would spray it outside of their aura, away, up, away. And you don't need to douse them. Maybe one scent, and then you can brush it this way. I do it whether the animal is in person or distant. I would spray their field, if you will. And you can use other scents, but you can also give them the opportunity to choose. Maybe you have 3 different types of sprays, or you have a flower essence, and then you also have more of an earth-based one, and you have some essential oils which you could put into something to spray, and you just let them smell them, and they can pick the one that they like, or they may not like any of them. They're usually pretty clear about that. So scent is another way of clearing their energy field. Let me just back up for a moment so I don't forget to say this. When you start clearing, let's say you choose scent. You've doused it, scent is the one that showed up. You would do the one spray of scent, one, and waft it through their energy field. And then you want to go back and scan it to see if it worked or changed anything. So when I work, I am constantly going back and forth and checking to see if the information that I got in the scanning has changed in any way, and what I would consider that as a response to the energy clearing that I doused through. So that's something I want to know what worked and then what didn't make a change at all, or that the animal said absolutely not. Sound is another really powerful way. Animals are incredibly sensitive to that. So you can just imagine if you use tinctures, because of the metal component of it, we might find that soothing. They might find it too much. Some of you may remember my dog, Mickey. He loved the tinctures, didn't bother him one bit. So, and the others, it's very activating. So you can have a bowl, a different tone to clear the energy field. And then the other one, which is similar to a cat toy many times, or a dog toy, is a rattle. So, but the key piece is you want to do a small sampling and then give the animal the choice, or you douse it, and then they'll be really clear with you whether they liked it or didn't like it. And then, of course, once you've done that clearing, then you would go back and scan just to check and see if anything changed. And then I've got crystals listed there. Crystals is a great example. I brought home a handful of amethyst tumbled stones, a handful of rose quartz tumbled stones. They were small, ones that you could put like in your pocket. And then I did a handful of clear quartz. So 3 different types of stones, and I laid them in piles on the floor. And then I sat back and watched my cats, because I have 5 cats, to see if any one of them would really like them. And all of them investigated them, but only one of my cats chose the amethyst, Sweetie. And Sweetie literally nosed every one of those little tumbled stones pretty much all over the house and rolled in them and did all this stuff. So she was really clear about her choice in that. So I didn't even think about scanning her prior to doing that because I was just really interested to see what they would choose. I probably did this about, I don't know, 6 or 8 years ago, because then Sweetie would have been 2. It was one of those things where working with crystals and animals and in person, and I was playing. So, but Sweetie is the kind of chilled one. She hangs back. She doesn't really interact with it, but she loved those crystals. So that gave you an idea. You can have the animal pick. And then you can go into different, again, we're just working on clearing. So then you go into specific energy work. So I do a lot of different types of energy work. And I only listed 3 here. I probably do all of the energy work and body work I can do on the animals, whether they're in person or distant. It's of course modified for the animals because their energy moves much quicker than the human. And the key piece here when you start offering the energy is to remember that they're not human and that they will absorb it much quicker and the session will go much faster when it's just the animal and then you're offering something like this. So I do 15-minute sessions, and many times the animal is done way before the 15 minutes is up, and they want to turn down the rest of the energy, and I'm like, nope, you have to take it. Your owner has asked for it, and then you can share it with whoever you want to. And needless to say, they usually pick their owner. So you can douse through whatever energy work you know and offer whichever one shows up in that process. And again, once I've done it, I always go back and scan whether the animal's in the physical or whether they're, the hologram or thought form on my desk to see if the scanning, using that as my reference point, and then coming back to my thought form, coming back to, all right, that made a change. So I think last week in the scanning, I talked about Rose, one of my cats who has gastritis. So scanning her body, right about the shoulder blades, where the stomach is in the body of the animal. She kind of flinched. And so that's where I worked. And I did crystals with her and I did Reiki. But I did the crystal, and I have 2 here. One is the selenite wand. Selenite's fantastic because it's alkaline. It's made out of ginseng, which is very alkalinic. And so it clears itself. This is polished. It clears itself, but you can use it as a sweeping, starting at the head on the animal, going down their back, but not be careful about how far you are how close you are to their body, because it'll feel pretty intense to them. And you just want to have a place to start and then ground that energy that you've taken with you into the floor or into the ground so that it's clear. But you also can use a clear quartz and just do a sweep that way. You don't have to do a ton because, again, the energy will just follow the crystal. So I did both of those with Rose, and then I would go back and check her. So the heat that was coming off at the beginning was less after the crystal sweep, and then I offered Reiki. So, and that probably took maybe 5-7 minutes. And then in closing the session, so this is the third step. This is really important. It's like putting the lid back on the jar. You've opened up, you've scanned them, they've given you permission. You've now added and changed the energy structure of what's going on in their system. And now you want to close the session in an energy. So you're going to smooth the aura. And then you can do that with your hand. That's usually the way it's done. So you place your attention in the hand. And then you're going to just, like you're brushing, but you're off their body. And you're just brushing and smoothing the aura. I always think of it as I'm wiping off my kitchen counter. And now I'm going back and making sure that I got the corners. So that's smoothing the aura. And you just bring it down to the ground again. All you're doing is smoothing the aura because you made a change in their energy field. And then a lot of people want to pet the animal, touch the animal again. But what you want to do is give them a chance to be in their own clean energy field and do a clean disconnect. And that becomes a really important thing because here you've done this beautiful job of clearing them. 1, 2, 3. You scanned them, you picked some type of clearing device or activity or body of work. And you've smoothed their aura. So you put the lid back on the jar, and then we'll put our own energy back on them when we touch them. So if we give them a little bit of time, then they can balance themselves and be contained and grounded, after the session. And it doesn't take very long. I'm going to stop the screen share. It doesn't take very long, but you want to give them time. Sometimes the animals will just go and go over in the corner and go to sleep. Or they will, dogs and horses are it's very common. They will go and ask to go, they'll either go to the bathroom, like they'll go outside to go to the bathroom. The birds will do the same thing. But the key piece is that the energy moved so that's what they're doing. It's the same thing when you go get body work or energy work. You will, get up off the table and go, oh, I have to go to the bathroom. That's basically what they're going to do. Or they won't go to their bowl and drink or eat when they don't normally do that during the middle of the day. You're just watching for these behaviors that shows a change in the energy. The other day I worked with a person, and towards the end of the session, the animal was very quiet, didn't really say much. I'm very clairaudient, but I saw an image of the tail wagging on this dog. I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. And then the owner, of course, went like this. What? She goes, your note said that the dog, that his tail wagged. And I'm like, uh-huh. She goes, it did. Yay. So that communication happens. And sometimes, she might have missed that subtleness if she hadn't been observing, which I encouraged her to do. because she had never done an animal energy session before. So it's really important to close the session, whether it's a human or an animal or your environment. If I don't know how many of you use Reiki, but Reiki is a great example. You start in a prayer position, you do the session, whatever the session is, and then you close the session. And that's basically the way we want to always do energy clearings or scannings. You want to make sure you have permission, things of that sort, so that it's clean. It's good hygiene. You don't, it's like going to the bathroom is emptying your body of stuff that you don't need. What do? You wash your hands. It's good hygiene. It's the same thing in the energy, but usually what happens is because we can't see it, we forget. And that's, I would encourage you to make sure you think of that 1, 2, 3. Scan, do whatever you're going to do, douse it, keep it simple. I keep it pretty simple. The animal usually will tell you, I'm all done. They'll turn around, they'll walk away, whatever it is they're going to do. And then smooth their aura and disconnect. Because you want to teach them, the animal specifically, how to be in their own clear energy. Well, Judy. So any questions? No? I explained that perfectly? Wow. Yes, ma'am. Millie. You're still on mute, love.
I had to finish writing before I raised my hand.
Okay.
So the layers that are connected to the chakras, are those the traditional, like crown, third eye, throat, those chakras, or did you mean something else?
No, the chakras that are that model, right? Yes, those have 7 layers. The ones that, if you Google chakras, they're going to give you the 7 that are on the body, right? And then when you look, if you ask for the energy layers, many times you'll get an image of that same color of.
Okay.
And many times, but if the color of the chakra and the color of the layer don't necessarily match, that would say to me that there's some kind of energy imbalance, whether it be the human, the animal, or the environment, because the environment absorbs everything that's going on. So its layers or energy bodies would reflect whatever's going on in the space. That's a good question.
It's interesting. I never really heard about that before, so thanks.
You're very welcome. Well, the thing that we're very blessed about is science is getting very curious of this whole thing around energy medicine and things of that sort. So now we know that there's an aura, I'm going to use that aura field around an atom. All you have to do is put into Google, atom field, that kind of stuff. And you'll get this nice little picture with the nucleus and then this kind of misty looking space around it called a field, right? Well, now we know that those 70 trillion atoms that make up a Cindy or any one of you, each time each atom comes together, they combine their fields.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, of course we have an energy field. Of course we do. Oh, well, of course. that energy might reflect in different colors because color is a frequency. So of course we would be different frequencies making up this community called this person. But of course, it makes sense. And there's a science behind it. I, that kind of stuff just is totally, I'm so fascinated by that science and energy medicines coming together. So, great question.
Cindy, I have a question.
Anybody else?
I have a question, Cindy. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
So with the animals, I know they're more sensitive, can be a
Right.
shorter period. Two questions. How often can you clear them or do this work on them? Can it be like a daily or a weekly and then can you just help me be super clear on the actual closing of the session?
Okay, so hold that one. We'll go to the first one. So animals do two things. One, they're just like any of us, right? They have their own energy that they radiate. And they also, because you're the emotional leader of your home, they also will try to help you balance by absorbing and helping you. So it's a very common thing for them to try to keep the peace, if you will, in your home. The more animals you have, the more that may be something that happens. Now, my cats don't do that. My dog, Mickey, he was like my soul companion, right? I would have to have conversations with. Stop doing this because he would get sick. His body, his dog body, was not meant to absorb human emotion, human stuff. I was just like, stop it, because he would get diarrhea, and guess where you got diarrhea? Stop it, in the house, don't do that. Like, and so so the key piece there is how often? Well, what's the cause of them needing a clearing? That would be my first question. So sometimes it's because the animal's you rescued them, right? They absorbed all the stress, the experience of, their difficulties, whatever it is. But animals are really cool. If you're okay, they usually will let go of that energy. They don't get hung up in it. We get hung up in it. We're the ones that ruminate over it and over it. Now, you will have animals that have had a lot of trauma. Absolutely. I've worked with them in person, distant. But the key piece is if you're radiating, you're telling them, I got this, and you mean it, and your energy says it. When you say yes, you mean yes. And when you say no, you mean no. You're in charge. They know you have it. Then their need for clearing goes way down. So that's the kind of thing. It's like dowsing. Is it that they need the clearing, or do I need the clearing? Does my space need the clearing? What's going on here? So that would be the questions. My way is I ask a lot of questions until I get the feeling of ding, 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 ding in my head or in my body or on my dowsing, because when it's about intuition, right, I'm always checking myself, asking questions until it feels really right. And that would be the way I would say it. It depends upon the animal's history, your relationship. Missy, who's 12, she's one of my cats. She's a rescued, gorgeous Siamese, but they found her wandering in the parking lot of a Petco parking lot. And what the vet thinks or thought at that time was that she was probably in some kind of cattery and got away. And she had not been handled nicely. I can't even tell you how many scratches and, you know, when she first came in, and I needed to give her worming. She was sick. She was the wrong color. We didn't even know she was a Siamese. I mean, it was just, she didn't want to be handled. I had to wrap her in a towel. I had to put on gloves. It was, and that went on for a couple of years. So to give her care was incredibly challenging because of what they did, right? But she loved my husband. You know why? He didn't do any of those things. He would just sit watching TV, and of course she could sit. So different relationship. Now, probably within a couple of years, she realized I wasn't going to hurt her, but when I needed to take care of her, I was doing it from this loving place, but I was mom, right? Tough mom. You're in your nails trimmed. Period. You know, so it's being really clear about the energy. And she was one that I did, you know, I did clear her because she had a lot of trauma around being handled. So does that help a little bit, Jane? Okay. All right. So that was that one. And then, oh, okay. So tell me more about what's you need in the closing, that part of it. What are you looking for there?
I just want to make sure. So in closing the session, is it like brushing it off after a Reiki session, or is it
Can be.
anything? Okay.
So the key piece the reason I said smoothing the aura,
Mm-hmm.
so on an animal, you've basically asked permission. You've gone in and worked on their field. Yes, it's quick, but time and space is not theirs. That's our stuff. You know, that's a human concept. You've gone in and done that. And then it's like a courteous thing. You close the door, you put the lid on it, you just smooth out their aura. It takes 30 seconds, right?
Okay.
And then if you think that maybe you doused it at the beginning, oh, this is my worry around blah, 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 then yes, you absolutely need to clear yourself.
Okay.
You know, so it's really paying attention to good hygiene, energy hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
Because I again, my experience is that just because we can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. You know, the ucky,
Mm-hmm.
the EBGBs, whatever word you want to call energy stuff, schmush. That's the stuff that needs the counter cleaned, whatever you want to call, whatever image it helps with. Does that help give it a little bit more clarity?
100%.
Well, and you also, Jane, because you douse, you could also just ask, is this session 100% complete?
Okay.
And then if it's not, then you can say, do I need to scan again? Is there more energy work? Oh, do I need to do more closing?
Mm.
I didn't ground them. I didn't ground me.
Okay.
I didn't put the stuff in the burning pot, whatever it is. Whatever your tool set is, that's what you could, oh, I should be doing this. Thanks, Dowser. Yeah. Anybody else? That was a good question. Everybody's good? Yeah? Wow. Everybody?
Sorry, I missed the first part, but it'll be you'll send us a copy, right, of this?
Yes, I won't send a copy of the recording. It's on YouTube. So if you go to the Healing Way Center YouTube, it'll be there. But
Sorry,
I'll send you the handout. Thanks for coming up.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions? You learned everything you needed to know. It's awesome. Yeah.
So Cindy, you talk about using sound for clearing. Do you ever use music versus, as another tool versus like the tinctures or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's very well documented, classical music,
Right.
but animals are very sensitive to all kinds of different types of vibrations. And that's the key. Is to find the vibration that works for them. That's what we'll play here. And the animals, you don't see a change in their behavior, which is really nice. Sometimes though, Mark likes rock and roll, so he's out in the garage playing that, and they're all like staring at the door. They're not used to it. Not that it's bad, it just doesn't match with so yeah, absolutely. So, and I think Millie, you raised your hand.
I did. When you were talking about the crystals, you showed us a green thing that, what was that?
Actually, I don't think I showed green. I showed.
Oh, it looked green here, but okay.
Okay, this is a selenite wand that's polished. You can get it in the raw. Just, it looks like a chunk. I actually have one right here. So you can see it's a much rougher looking.
Right.
And the selenite is so great. What I do with some people, depending upon what's going on, like a multi-animal household, is sometimes people will put these little chunks in the crates or the beds, and it'll help clear things that are going on, especially if you're introducing a new animal to your household, because they're going to have stuff from the shelters or wherever they were, because usually when you get one, you're helping them. So that's one. And then this is just a clear quartz. I use it a lot for space clearing. You can use other crystals, but the reason I like selenite is because it is alkaline. Ginseng's alkaline, and that it self-clears. So you don't have to do anything with it. But if you order it from Amazon, you want to make sure that you give it an opportunity to clear. Maybe put it in a windowsill, things of that sort, but don't put it underwater because it'll just melt. So.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Yeah. Yes, Boriana.
When you ask an animal for permission to do some healing work, do you always know if it gives sometimes the animal might not really know. I'm not sure. Has it happened to you that the animal doesn't really know if it wants this or not?
My experience is if I'm clear with my connection, then the animal is clear about the yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the biggest teacher I had is some of the animals at the Bronx Zoo. I mean, these are non-domesticated animals, and they were crystal clear. If when I was clear about what I wanted to offer, they were very clear by either turning around or walking away or coming closer or establishing eye contact. I mean, it's, and you know, our domesticated animals are the same. If you're watching, they will be really clear.
Yeah.
You know, so I have connected sometimes where the animal's like, what are you doing? And I'll, you know, explain that. I might talk, but if it's a distance session, for instance, I'm going to talk to the energy, trying to give them a mental picture because that's how they think, right? In images. So I'm offering that to them. And usually, I don't think I've ever had an animal say no in all the years. They will maybe reluctantly do it, or I'll just say, try it. And then if you say no, I'll tell the owner, I'll tell your owner. And of course, again, my connection is clear. My intentions are clear. I'm offering. I'm not doing to them, which is what happens so many times to them. You know, if any of you have ever been pregnant, or you have a dog or a cat or a horse, or people immediately want to walk up and touch. They want to touch your belly. They want to touch the horse. But if people know the etiquette of animals, the animal will tell you, yes, you can come in. No, don't do that. You know, I walk around my home every day and it's, you know, I pass the same dogs and the dogs will stop and stare at me and I will stop. And then the dog starts pulling, you know, they want to go see me. It's really very funny because they're clear. I'm letting them tell me. So it's all about listening. I don't know if that helps, Boriana.
It was more like a hypothetical question, and also one that came to me because I used to work for a while with a friend who collected feral cats. And of course, these animals were traumatized more than, or just really didn't know where they were and what was going on. They were
Wild.
the interesting thing was two of her cats, because she had a lot of cats, were an enormous help. I would come into a room where she had a very, very shy cat, a lovely cat, but just, and these two would come and really work with me.
Mm-hmm.
They were very friendly. They were her cats. And they were just all the time pouring. One comes from this side, the other. They were climbing on me and then just really helping me.
Well, and that's so
I'm sure that they helped that cat because it started showing, you know, not hiding.
right.
Without them, it wouldn't have been the same.
Right. Well, and that would be, I had a pet sitting service, and that was one of the things. I was like, oh, you'll never see my cat. And of course, I saw all the cats, all the animals. They were like, hey, who are you? And that's what I was like, it's just me. And then they would be, you know, just like what you're describing, they'd be all over me. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then when I tell them that, I tell the owners, oh, yeah, sure. So and Yoda came to visit. They were like, what? No, I saw Yoda every day for your 2 weeks. Like, it was fun. Yeah. Cool. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. I'll stop the recording. And it's